Hey everyone, Brad Porter here. Excited. I'm gonna plant pumpkin seeds today. For those of you who maybe have been following Cobot since the beginning, for the first year we didn't really have a robot to show. So to try to gain some interest on LinkedIn, I posted pictures of a of a pumpkin in progress. Kind of silly, but some people still remember it. This past week I was on spring break with the family, caught up with a bunch of friends, checked in on our progress on kind of foundation models work at our Seattle office. Really impressive stuff to see a robot self-learning a task with just 5 demonstrations was uh, simple task still. We have quite a bit more work to do, um, but I think exciting technique for how to really learn novel tasks really quickly, which we think is the backbone to how we ultimately build a foundation model that generalizes. We see a lot of great demos right now of really impressive stuff, but very little that shows any kind of generality. We can learn tasks, but it's expensive. And so if we can learn tasks cheaply, we can learn a lot of tasks, then we can hopefully build a foundation model that really generalizes. So that was exciting stuff on the Cobot front. I saw in the news this week that that CERN had announced discovery of toponium, a new novel particle. Obviously, there'll be a lot of uh, reproducing results and validation, but potentially really transformative breakthrough. And it reminded me of a leadership story I think about from time to time. So when I first went to MIT, I decided to take the advanced physics course because I had already taken AP physics, but I didn't feel like I should place out of kind of basic, uh, classic physics. And so I took the more advanced lab course, which I'll tell you, if you're an MIT, it's not always the best idea freshman year to take the more advanced class. You just manage to surround yourself with the more advanced students, and it's a little bit extra tough. And there was a lab component to this course, so the lab component was obviously nervous because how much time is a lab component going to take? You're a freshman, you're trying to figure out how intense these courses are. Um, but then it turns out the lab was just a 1 hour session about 2 or 3 weeks into the course. And so went to this lab session, you partnered up with a classmate, and then we just went through like classic experiments, like really just like weighing two things or like dropping a ping pong ball with a strobe and measuring gravity. Like it was like 10 different kind of like physics 101 basic measurements experiments that we'd all done in high school. And then you had to queue up at the end for this guy who was older gentleman who was had to sign off on your sheet. um, and so pair by pair we like queued up to talk to this individual. He reviewed the sheet, and each time you couldn't quite hear, he kind of talked in a low voice, but he was clearly like um, scrutinizing every measurement that people had done, and whether they'd add units, and kind of really like pushing um, for detail. And when we got up there, he found one or two things where and gave us a bit of a like you know 90-second lecture on, hey, like measurement precision really matters, right? And detailed and units, like these are things you have to get right. um so anyhow, it was kind of odd, right? You're like, this advanced physics course, we just took like this really simple lab, and then got this kind of personal coaching on why precision matters. And so I was telling an upperclassman this later that day, just because it was kind of an odd story, but maybe some relief that the lab component was done. And the upperclassman said, do you know who that was? Who? I said, who? You mean the proctor at the end? They said, yeah, the proctor at the end. I'm like, no, he like wasn't teaching the course, like not someone I had interacted with before. And the upperclassman said, well, that was Professor Henry Kendall. Uh, Professor Kendall won the Nobel Prize for discovering the quark. And so what Professor Kendall was doing was he realized that the likely students to go into physics and major in physics were taking the more advanced course. And so he'd found this point where, literally for like 3 or 4 hours at the beginning of every fall semester, he could get in front of every student that was likely to be, a physics major at MIT and impress upon them the importance of detail-orientedness and diligence in scientific pursuit in physics. Um, it's just a reflection that I think about a lot as a leader. Like, how do we find those points of leverage, those points where we can share our insight, our perspective in a way that's giving back to the future, but really reinforcing something that's really, really important to us. And so I leave you with that thought. Impressive that we're continuing to make breakthroughs in physics, and I think important in our companies and startups to find those ways to teach our values and to educate those who are coming up behind us. So that's my thought for the day. Hope you all have a great week.